Hello everyone, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy Daily News Analysis. Today is 29th August 2024 and today we have some important articles for the discussion. And without any delay, let's get into the discussion and one by one we'll discuss all these important articles. And yesterday you all knew that I have given one prelims practice question. The question is, which of the following Central Asian countries share their borders with China? Your options are Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. So you need to have a detailed understanding about all the countries in the Central Asian region. So if you carefully look at the map, so these are all the countries which are part of the Central Asian region. So of course Kazakhstan shares its borders with China but not Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, right? So you can see Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan have been sharing their borders with China. So therefore, if you coming back to the question, yes, without any doubt Kazakhstan has been sharing its borders with China, and Turkmenistan is not sharing its borders, but Tajikistan and even Kyrgyzstan also sharing its borders with China. So therefore the correct answer for this question is 1, 3, 4. So that is C. So C is the correct answer for this question. So you can clearly see that Kazakhstan has been sharing its borders with China and Kyrgyzstan also shares its borders, and followed by Tajikistan as well. So these are the countries with which China has been sharing its borders with the Central Asian countries, but on the other hand, with Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, China never shares its borders. So today also I have another very important practice question. And this is a very important question on an initiative at the global level. The Blue Dot Network is a multi-stakeholder initiative of which of the following countries? US, Japan, India and Australia. So it is very important that you need to read about this Blue Dot Network. What exactly is this Blue Dot Network and what are the countries which are part of this Blue Dot Network? And let's get into the discussion. First article that we are going to discuss is about establishing a carbon markets in India. Okay, so whenever we talk about carbon markets or establishing carbon markets, now what is the objective of establishing such carbon markets? Now climate change is a new reality as of now, and every country has been fighting against climate change, and in fact every country has been adopting certain measures to deal with or to tackle with the problem of climate change. So one way through which we could deal with the climate change is establishing carbon markets. So through carbon markets we could actually incentivize the industries and even individuals to adopt energy efficiency in new technologies, and renewable form of energies can be incentivized in those industries, so that these such methods or such measures adopted by these companies will get benefited from these carbon markets, and we'll understand that about this in a very detailed manner. So when we talk about this, the context is that recently Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman introduced the full budget of 24-25, and in this budget the Finance Minister has actually announced a shift for polluting industries. So there are certain industries which are considered as polluting industries, such as iron, steel, aluminium, from energy efficiency targets to emissions targets, right? Because iron, steel and aluminium are the industries which are considered as polluting industries because they emit large scale emissions, greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. And in fact this particular change from energy efficiency target to emission target for these specific industries essentially aims to address climate change more effectively by introducing carbon market system, right? So the union government planning to introduce a comprehensive and a holistic carbon market system, and this particular shift reflects India's overall commitment to reducing carbon emissions and at the same time balancing the developmental priorities. Now when we are looking to deal with the climate change and environmental conservation, environmental protection, so we should not altogether neglect development. Rather, for any country, balanced development is very important. Balanced development is very important. Now when India has focused on developing a comprehensive carbon market system. So this carbon market system essentially in line with the balanced development. Now balanced development actually prioritizes both environmental conservation and protection. Apart from that, the development also, and this is known as a balanced development, and balanced development is very often sustainable in nature. Balanced development is sustainable in nature, and in this context, so every country has been looking to ensure or to achieve balanced development, and India is in the forefront. And apart from that, it is also very important that when India focused on ensuring or setting up a carbon market system, and this carbon market system is also in line with the balanced development in India. Now in this context, we need to understand about perform, achieve and trade versus emissions trading, right? So there is a concept called perform, achieve, trade and even emissions trading. Now this perform, achieve, trade is also known as PAT scheme, and this PAT scheme specifically focuses on reducing specific energy consumption in the energy intensive industries. So previously we have discussed there are certain industries such as iron industry, steel industry, cement industry and even aluminum industry. So all these industries are emission incentive intensive or energy intensive industries. They require huge energy, and at the same time they also emit a huge amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So therefore this perform, achieve, trade scheme specifically focuses on reducing the energy consumption requirements of these energy intensive industries. Remember, these are energy intensive industries, and PAT scheme essentially focuses on reducing the energy intensive nature of these particular industries, where the firms can actually trade in energy efficiency credits, right? For example, imagine that there are two energy intensive industries, industry A and industry B. Now in this context, industry A and industry B, now the government as a third party set up certain regulations and certain standards of emission for both industry A and industry B. Now government came up with a regulation that both industries should not use more than 10 units. So say this is an example, right? So they should not use more than 10 units of electricity per day or per year. So we could say we could actually increase it to 1000 units per year, right? So this is just an imaginary example. Now in this context, what generally happen that it is a regulation and it is a standard that is fixed by the government. Now industry A, what industry A has done, so industry A, well within the regulation, in fact it has used just 800 units of electricity, even though the the government standard was fixed at 1000 units. But on the other hand, industry B used 1200 units. Now in order to incentivize, there is a need to incentivize industry A. So in order to incentivize industry A, so industry A will be given 200 energy efficiency credits, right? So it will be given 200 energy efficiency credits, because remember that industry A just used 800 units, even though its prescribed limit was 1000 units. So therefore it will be given 200 credits in order to incentivize industry A, in order to encourage other industries to adopt such energy efficiency methods. So now if you look at industry B, it has already breached the government set limit of 1000 units. Now it is mandatory on the part of industry B to purchase these 200 units from the industry A, because it has achieved energy efficiency. Now understand, industry B failed to achieve energy efficiency and it costs industry B a lot, but on the other hand it benefits industry yeah. So this is how the perform achieve trade scheme usually works. However, the emissions trading, so trading in terms of emissions released by these industries or cap and event trade, they actually set an absolute emission cap for these industries. There is an absolute emission cap for these industries, right? So now imagine the industry A and industry B, and both industry A and industry B have 10 actually the government set an absolute emission cap on both industry A and industry B. For example, absolute emission cap is 10 tons for both industry A and industry B, and similarly industry A is well within the government set stipulated emission cap, so that it has just emitted 8 tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, but on the other hand it has emitted 12 tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Now industry B is mandated, it is mandated to industry B that it has to purchase around 2 tons of emission, this 2 tons of this emissions certificates from industry A to industry B. So therefore it actually provides an economic incentive on the part of industry A for reducing its emissions. But unlike the perform, achieve and trade that we have discussed in the first case, it does not focus on energy efficiency, but on the other hand perform, achieve, trade essentially focuses on energy intensive industries, and it also focuses on energy efficiency, achieving the energy efficiency. But at the same time, this emission trading essentially focuses on meeting specific emission ceilings. So that is the difference between emissions trading and also the perform, achieve and trade. So however, India has been planning to make a transition from this perform, achieve, trade, which focuses on energy intensive industries and also focuses on ensuring the energy efficiency of the industries. So India has been looking to make a transition from the PAT scheme to the emission trading scheme that we have discussed in the second case, or case number B. Okay, so therefore India has a comprehensive climate strategy. There's no doubt about that, because India is one of the responsible international player when it comes to the climate change, environmental protection, biodiversity conservation. So therefore, as part of India's climate strategy, India has been looking to make a transition from the PAT scheme to the emission trading scheme. So this particular transformation or shift essentially aims to establish a stricter emission controls and align with the international climate commitments, and over a period of time this is going to benefit India as well. Now in this context, so we will understand some historical context and also the international commitments with respect to climate change. So India has been working a lot on decarbonizing various sectors in its economy. So we have number of sectors, and these sectors are becoming more and more carbon intensive in recent periods of time, and Indian government has also undertaking a lot of measures to make these sectors decarbonized through mechanisms such as perform, achieve and trade. So perform, achieve and trade essentially deals with the aspect of energy efficiency, right? So it deals with the energy efficiency, and apart from that, the clean development mechanism as part of the Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol has a specific mechanism called a clean development mechanism, and these efforts, both perform, achieve, trade and clean development mechanism, so this is also one of the emission trading. Clean development mechanism is an emission trading methodology. So therefore these efforts include a substantial contributions to the global carbon market, and in the long term it will also benefit India as well. And in fact, so India actually aims for net zero emissions by 2050, but this is wrong. India is not actually aiming for net zero emissions by 2050. Rather, India wanted to become a net zero emission country by the year 2070. And in fact, the significant contribution of emissions coming from specific sectors such as iron and steel industries, so which are actually considered as a major climate change contributors. Remember, there are specific sectors or specific areas, for example, iron, steel, aluminum, cement, and even electricity generation also, because majority of our electricity demands are met through the fossil fuels such as coal and thermal power plants. So therefore, in this context, in order to achieve India's target of becoming net zero by 2050, we need to look into specific sectors such as iron, steel industries, aluminum industries, cement industry, because they are major contributors to the climate change. However, the current progress towards achieving the net zero emission target, or even achieving the energy efficiency, reducing the greenhouse gases contribution from Indian side, so the progress towards these targets remains insufficient, and this has been pointing out towards the fact that India has to work a lot on this front. India's nationally determined contribution, these are all also called as INDCs or even NDCs. Now when we say NDCs, they are nationally determined contributions, nationally determined contributions, right? So this India's nationally determined contribution include targets to reduce emission intensity and even increase the non-fossil fuel energy capacity, that you could actually see through the Panchamrit commitments that were being made by India, so during one of the COP summit, the Conference of Parties summit. So therefore, the nationally determined contribution targets of India specifically to reduce the emission intensity of its economy and also increase non-fossil fuel energy capacity, and these targets actually guide countries' climate actions and even development of its overall carbon markets. So you could also go through India's Panchamrit targets, and these Panchamrit targets are very, very important. And one of India's Panchamrit target is achieving net zero emission target by the year 2070 and reduce the carbon intensity of Indian economy less than 45% by 2030, and even reduce the total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons between now and year 2030, and meet 50% of country's energy requirements using renewable energy by 2030, and even developing non-fossil fuel energy capacity to reach 500 gigawatt by the year 2030. So these are the 5 commitments which were made by India in one of the COP summit of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Now in this context, we will understand the carbon market implementation. Now what exactly is this carbon market implementation? So in India, so we have a Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and its task is to ensure energy efficiency in various sectors. And this Bureau of Energy Efficiency draft blueprint actually outlines 2 phases of the carbon market implementation. The first phase is a voluntary market with a carbon offset mechanism, and this voluntary market with the carbon offset mechanism will be followed by a mandatory compliance market with carbon credits trading from 2026. This is what the blueprint of the Bureau of Energy Efficiency has actually outlined, and it has outlined 2 different phases. First phase is a voluntary phase, and second phase is the mandatory phase. And apart from that, the domestic carbon market in India will actually include some of the most important sectors in terms of the greenhouse gas emissions and in terms of energy efficiency. So 2 important aspects, which are the greenhouse gas emissions, and even energy intensive nature of such industries. So therefore the domestic carbon market will in India will actually include certain sectors, so which are iron, steel, petrochemicals, chemicals, aluminium, cement. So these sectors will be covered under the domestic carbon market mechanism, and this inclusion essentially aims to cover a significant sources of emissions. And apart from that, India's carbon market strategy. So India's carbon market strategy essentially aiming at offsetting the carbon emissions over a period of time, and also aiming at achieving the energy efficiency of India's major and most important industries. So therefore India's carbon market strategy essentially reflects a balance between addressing the climate change and also meeting the developmental needs. Now understand, when we talk about India, still a sizable share of India's population and below poverty line, and there's a lot of illiteracy, and infrastructure backwardness is another problem that we have been facing. Infrastructure backwardness, illiteracy, poverty, and inadequate economic growth and economic development, unemployment. So there are a lot of problems that we have been facing, and poor industrial development or industrial growth and development. So this is another factor. So we have been suffering with all these problems, and in this context climate change has emerged as another major problem. Because of climate change, agriculture production has been declined in recent times, or even a major disaster such as cyclones or floods or even heat wave and drought like conditions. So all these problems have increased enormously in recent times. So therefore climate change has been posing a new challenges for Indian economy, which is predominantly dependent on agriculture for food security, for livelihood, for all these reasons. Now in this context, best way forward for India with respect to the carbon market strategy is to balance the climate change needs and requirements with the developmental needs. And in fact the carbon market strategy of India essentially aims to integrate the climate goals within the broader socio-economic context of the country, right? So this is how the carbon market in India, or the carbon market strategy in India, will be implemented over a period of time. And next, a very important article is with respect to labor codes, right? So in fact the union government has actually formulated a few four important labor codes. So these four important labor codes will specifically deals with a wide number of areas, a large number of areas. For example, occupational safety, health, occupational safety, minimum wages, so it deals with the wages also, and the working conditions or working hours, working conditions, and social security, social safety nets, social security and social safety nets. So these are the number of areas with which these new labor codes actually deal with. So however, the union government recently started discussions with the labor unions on the implementation of labor codes, or even there are certain contentious issues within these labor codes, and union government has been holding discussions with the labor unions for the implementation of the four labor codes which were formulated way back in the year 2020 itself. Now we will understand the context of this particular article. The context is that Union Labour Minister Mansukh Mandviya has agreed to hold further discussions on the implementation of four labor codes. So union government has already formulated four labor codes, and in fact Union Labour Minister held discussions on the implementation of these four labor codes with the central trade unions, union leaders, on Wednesday. And in fact, there are certain contentious issues within these four labor codes. So those contentious issues, including non-implementation of existing labor laws which are still prevalent, and absence of inspections to ensure decent work conditions for all the workers in the industries, and even guaranteeing the occupational safety and health of the workers. So these are certain important issues. On these issues, union labor minister hold discussions with the union labor unions over the implementation of new labor codes. So we will understand what are these new labor codes. So union government has actually formulated four new labor codes, and these four new labor codes are: one is Code on Wages 2019, Industrial Relations Code 2020, and Code on Social Security 2020, and Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code of 2020. Right, so these are four new labor codes which were framed and formulated by the union government in the year 2019 and 20. So in fact, as a step towards implementation of all these four labor codes, the central and number of state governments have republished the draft rules, and in fact both central government and state governments have also invited applications or comments from all the stakeholders over the implementation of these four labor codes. And labor codes essentially envisage a strengthening the protection which is available to the workers, and this protection to unorganized sectors will also be increased or covered under the four new labor codes. Essentially it deals with terms like statutory minimum wage, social security and health care of the workers, and unorganized and informal workers will also be covered under three new labor codes. So there are certain important provisions within which these new labor codes essentially deals with. So first is a statutory right for the minimum wages, and even timely payment of the wages have been made available to all workers to support the sustainable growth and even inclusive development. So this will be benefiting the workers, specifically workers in the unorganized sector, because workers in the unorganized sector very often don't have the social security and social safety nets. So this is very, very important, social security and social safety nets, because people in the unorganized sector, workers in the unorganized sector, they even don't have the job security, and even minimum wages are not being paid in the unorganized sector. So labor codes would essentially deal with all these important things. So therefore there will be social security, social safety nets, and at the same time exploitation of the workers by the employers will not take place, and there will be a proper structure, a mechanism already put in place that safeguards the interests and rights of the workers. And in fact, apart from that, the four new labor codes in India also have the provisions for annual health checkup and medical facilities, which have also been made to enhance labor productivity and increases the life expectancy of the workers, thereby ensuring or enhancing the productivity of a company will also make the company profitable in the longer term. And these labor codes also have the statutory provisions, and these statutory provisions have made for the first time to issue appointment letter to every employee of the establishment, and that will lead to the formalization of the contract between the employer and the employee. Okay, so there will be a formalization of the contract between employer and employee. So that is very, very important. This will be in fact the first step to safeguard the rights of the employee. So therefore, formalization of the contract of employment, and that will increase job security, and it also enables the workers to claim statutory benefits. These statutory benefits including minimum wages and even the social security benefits as well. And this labor codes also have the provision of reskilling fund for skill development of the workers. So continuous reskilling and even upskilling, reskilling and upskilling of the workers is very important to make them earn a better livelihood opportunities and better job opportunities in the future, because employment will always depends on rapidly upgrading the existing skills through reskilling and upskilling. So therefore these four labor codes will also have the provision of continuous reskilling and upskilling of these workers, and central government may even extend the benefits to unorganized workers, gig workers are a short term contract workers. So right, so we can say that they gig workers are mostly freelance workers. They are freelance workers, they are contract workers, they are not permanent workers. So once their work is done, their relationship with employer would immediately came to an end. So that is the gig nature of the economy. So the central government may even extend the benefits of these four labor codes to unorganized workers, gig workers and even platform workers. And in fact such move from the union government is obviously a welcome move, because these workers don't have the social security and social safety nets, and the central government may also extend the benefits of the state insurance corporation or employees provident fund organization benefits to all these workers and their families, and applicability of employees provident fund has been extended to all industries as against scheduled industries at present. So these are four new labor codes, and essentially these four new labor codes would strengthen the workers rights, strengthen workers rights in India. And these four new labor codes will prevent exploitation of the workers, and that is also very important. And apart from that, adequate social safety and social security net will be provided, and adequate wages, job security, so therefore there will be a proper mechanism in place which actually specifically looks into the issues of the workers. So next important article is with respect to Chandipura virus, and Chandipura virus is also recently seen in news, and we will understand the context of this Chandipura virus. So a recent outbreak or the current outbreak of the Chandipura virus infection in India is considered as one of the largest in the past 20 years according to the World Health Organization. So therefore it is a cause of concern, and it is a new disease. In fact this disease can also spread rapidly among the people. So as of now 61 cases have been reported from the states of Gujarat and Rajasthan also. So therefore there is a possibility that this Chandipura virus may spread to other states in India, and that would result in a major public health emergency. So we are now recovering from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So at this point of time, when we are recovering from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, another disease, a viral disease called Mpox, has been emerging as a public health emergency of international concern. And in India also we are seeing a rapid rise in the cases of Chandipura viral infection. So we'll talk about this Chandipura viral infection. So this is an arbovirus, and this Chandipura viral infection belongs to vesiculovirus genus in Rhabdoviridae family, right? So this is the Chandipura virus. So Chandipura virus infection is transmitted by various species of sand flies and even mosquitoes such as Aedes aegypti, and even vector for dengue. And it primarily affects children who are under 15 years old. Okay, so this Chandipura virus can actually infect the central nervous system, and it will potentially lead to the disease called encephalitis. And encephalitis is an inflammation of the brain's active tissues. So this is the cause of concern, right? So most of the people who are going to get infected by this Chandipura virus will get this encephalitis disease, and encephalitis essentially means the inflammation of brain's active tissues. Now what are the symptoms? So there are certain symptoms that we need to look for. So whenever we see that some people are getting infected with this Chandipura virus, the symptoms included are it resembles flu, including fever, body aches, and even headache, and it can be caused, or it can cause altered mental state, seizures, encephalitis, and respiratory distress, bleeding tendencies, and even anemia in the advanced stages, right? So these are certain symptoms that we could observe in the encephalitis or this Chandipura viral infection. And if you look at some details with respect to Chandipura viral infection, so this virus was first isolated and identified in the year 1965 at a village called Chandipura village in Nagpur, and because of that reason, so this is a Chandipura virus. And a very important data with respect to the fatality of Chandipura virus. So imagine that 100 people are getting infected with this Chandipura virus. So 58 people would get killed by this virus. So therefore the mortality rate of this particular virus is very, very high. So 58% is the fatality rate of Chandipura viral infection. So therefore it will be certainly a cause of concern, specifically in India with a huge population density, and it is transmitted to humans by sand flies, and these sand flies breed in small dark conditions and cracks in these houses. And in fact, the virus as of now is not considered as epidemic potential until an outbreak of an acute encephalitis among children in Andhra Pradesh in the year 2003. And apart from that, the disease rapidly progresses from influenza-like symptoms to even coma, and that would finally result in death in extreme cases. Remember, the mortality or the fatality rate of Chandipura virus is around 58%, and viral encephalitis is a public health concern across the world. And in fact, there is no specific antiviral treatment or there is no specific vaccine available for this Chandipura viral infection. So therefore the symptoms can be treatable, right? So if any individual is infected with this Chandipura virus, the symptoms can be treated because there is no antiviral treatment available, and there's also no vaccine available for this Chandipura viral infection. And Union Health Ministry and experts have reviewed cases of viral infection and even acute encephalitis syndrome in states like Gujarat, Rajasthan, and even Madhya Pradesh as well. So Madhya Pradesh Health Department actually possesses all necessary equipment and even facilities to identify the virus, which is one of the causes of acute encephalitis syndrome. And this acute encephalitis syndrome is a group of clinically similar neurological manifestations, and the acute encephalitis syndrome is caused by several different viruses, bacteria, fungus, and parasites, and spirochetes, chemicals, toxins, right? So this Chandipura virus over a period of time even causes this acute encephalitis syndrome as well. So that is about the Chandipura viral infection. And next, a very important article is about the new 12 industrial nodes or cities under National Industrial Corridor Development Program that the Union government has recently announced. Okay, so Union Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, recently approves 12 industrial nodes or cities under the National Industrial Corridor Development Project. So we will understand about this in a very detailed manner. The context is that the Union Cabinet Committee or Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs or Union Cabinet has approved 12 new industrial cities across 10 states in India, and this has marked a significant advancement in the nation's overall efforts to strengthen or to enhance the manufacturing capabilities and even drive economic growth and economic development. So this is a very important, because in India logistic cost is a cause of concern in India. And if we reduce the logistic cost in India, and that would attract FDI into Indian economy, and FDI would result in technology or technical know-how, and it results in managerial experience, managerial expertise. It is also very important. And when we have the global, when India became the center of global FDI because of a huge workforce that we already have, huge workforce, and there's a potential for India to become a global manufacturing hub, because we already launched programs like Make in India. So Make in India is a program that the government of India has already launched in line with the Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliant India. So therefore it is very important aspect, and attracting FDI on a large scale into India because of a lower logistic cost will boost exports, and that would result in export led growth in India, and that would also create a large scale employment opportunities for India's educated youth, and even it also provide a large scale employment opportunities for women as well, and that would even result in women employment. And today Chinese growth is mostly driven by the exports, right? So it is an export led growth and development. So therefore in this context, the government, as part of National Industrial Corridor Developmental Program, launching 12 industrial nodes or cities is a welcome initiative, and in fact the total estimated cost would be 28,602 crore. And the new industrial areas will be established in the following locations, and the following locations including Uttarakhand, a place called Kurpia, and Punjab, at a place called Rajpura and Patiala, and Maharashtra at Dighi, Kerala in Palakkad, Uttar Pradesh in Agra and Prayagraj, Bihar at Gaya, Telangana at Jahirabad, Andhra Pradesh at Orvakal and Koparti, Rajasthan at Jodhpur, Pali. So these are the new industrial nodes or cities that the Union Cabinet recently announced. So you could also see the projects, the 12 projects. So 5 along Amritsar Kolkata Industrial Corridor, and 2 along Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and even 1 each along the corridors of Vizag and Chennai. So including Hyderabad Bangalore, Hyderabad Nagpur, and Chennai and Bangalore. And the name of one city was not revealed, as model code of conduct is in force in poll bound states, right? So these are the projects that the Union Cabinet has recently announced as part of National Industrial Corridor Developmental Program. And the new industrial cities or nodes, industrial nodes, will be developed as a greenfield smart cities. I hope you knew about this greenfield smart cities. So whenever I talk about the greenfield or brownfield smart cities, so greenfield are completely new projects. So they are completely new projects, so starting from scratch. But on the other hand, brownfield projects are projects which are announced to develop the existing projects. Okay, so brownfield projects are those projects which will develop the existing, already operating existing projects, but greenfield projects are completely new projects. So new industrial cities that the Union Cabinet has announced will be developed as a greenfield smart cities of global standards, built ahead of demand on plug and play and walk to work. So these will be the models on which these industrial nodes and industrial cities will be established, and they will also be aligned with Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti They will also be established on the lines of Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti National Master Plan. National Master Plan. So in fact, the union government has already announced this particular program in the year 2021 itself, essentially to boost infrastructure across India, infrastructure spending in India. That is very, very important for the economic development, economic growth, and even industrial development also. So therefore, these new industrial nodes and cities will be aligned with the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan. The projects will feature multimodal connectivity infrastructure, so that ensures seamless movement of people, goods, and even services also. So there are certain benefits from this particular industrial nodes and cities. So it actually provides a lot of employment opportunities. No doubt that in all these cities and industrial nodes, they would create a large scale gainful employment opportunities, right? So gainful employment opportunities will certainly benefit the people, benefit the youth, and creating large scale employment opportunities, because they attract a large scale investments, specifically FDIs into India, and FDIs will provide employment opportunities. And it is also expected that most of the industries are labor intensive industries, or labor intensive industries will be prioritized, and labor intensive industries will translate into gainful employment opportunities, and it will result in a large scale economic development of a country, and even it would also result in the export led economic growth as well. And technology transfer is will be another important area, and Indian economy will become more and more competitive, and the living standards of the people will improve significantly. Living standards is another important area. So overall, through this National Industrial Corridor Development Project, it is expected to generate approximately 1 million direct jobs and up to 3 million indirect jobs. And it is a very, very important at present in the Indian economy, because we have a huge demographic dividend, and we need to accommodate the existing demographic dividend in a sustainable manner. And apart from that, as I have already told you, that such industrial nodes and corridors will actually get a lot of investment, and the total investment potential of these projects that the Union Cabinet has announced is estimated to be 1.52 lakh crore. And this strategic move from India is set to transform India's industrial landscape, and that would create a robust network of industrial nodes and even cities that will significantly enhance country's economic growth and even the global competitiveness as well. However, so a National Industrial Corridor Development Program, so we'll talk about this particular program. What was this program and what are the objectives of this particular program? Now, when we talk about this National Industrial Corridor Development Program, so it is one of India's most ambitious infrastructure development program, and this particular program aiming to develop the futuristic industrial cities across India. Right, so this is going to develop the futuristic industrial cities across India, and that can actually compete with the best manufacturing and investment destinations across India. And this National Industrial Corridor Development Project is designed to foster a vibrant industrial ecosystem, and that would facilitate investments from both large anchor industries and even micro, small, and medium enterprises as well. So there are certain key components of these industries. So for example, industrial corridors, greenfield projects, infrastructure enhancement, and even smart cities as well. Right, so this is all about the National Industrial Corridor Development Project. Right, so that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. If you like our work, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.